not last year, but the year prior, I introduced the concept of Reset-ember to the channel. And with that, I changed the way, or reset the way, that I portray myself to the channel. Because at first, I was like, man, who cares about me? Who cares about what I think, what I feel, what I've done? And so in the original Reset-ember, I gave you all the backstory of how I got into wrestling, how I progressed in it, how it was the catalyst to me writing my first ever graphic novel. And in the fourth week, I broke down how that more was to come. And this return of Reset-ember is subtitled The Reveal. This week, I am revealing the characters of Grimow and Lady Reaper, a married couple who, as I have jokingly called them, it's the concept of if Batman was married to the Punisher. What I mean by that is their philosophies or mindsets were married together. And so after the ad read and after the open rolls, Brandon will be here and we will talk about this upcoming project from Gamble Comics, Grimow, and Lady Reaper. Whether it's your first time here or you're a regular here at Mr. Super Oz, I just want to thank you for tuning in to the channel. It exists because I, Oz, from the channel Mr. Super Oz, I wrote a 68-page graphic novel called Everlasting Survivors. Volume 1 is called All Day Long. If you follow the link in the description of this video, you can get yourself hats, shirts, posters, all kinds of fun things. But most importantly, you can get the story itself. And the more people that pick up the story, the greater the chances are that there can be continued adventures with these heroes. If you could, give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, leave a comment, enjoy. Brandon, thank you for joining me on this channel for this journey into basically my brain. Yep. And the reason I put it that way is right now, all the characters that will be revealed throughout the month of September are, well, the scripts are written and the stories are laid out, but outside of the written word, they're just ideas in my head. Mm-hmm. And so BC Brute is kind of the catalyst to treating Reset-ember this way this year, which, what I mean by that is, a few months ago, I revealed to all the viewers that there's an upcoming project coming out from Gamble Comics called BC Brute. I did a by myself video where I tried my best to lay out who the character of Mattathias Priest is, what he's facing, and what people could expect. Upon that video releasing, then later on I did the first ever Everlasting Artist Spotlight video, which thank you for your help in conceiving the title of that series, and introduced the world to Aaron Johnson, the artist who is working on BC Brute. But I guess the excitement is really what made this the September project, and I just wanted to have the back and forth conversation is why I invited you on and asked you to read the first issue of Grimow and Lady Reaper so that it wouldn't just be me talking to the camera.
Okay.
And so I appreciate that. And honestly, and this is for the viewer to hear because you already know it, I don't need to tell you something you already know, but legitimately, over time, you have been very much an asset that I've used when writing stories to say, hey, does this make sense? And and I'd always get your input. So I appreciate you always being there to lend me your your thinking.
No, you're welcome. Happy to do it.
Yeah. So, like I said, you read issue 1 of Grim Island Lady Ripper. It is composed in the same page format as BC Brute, in that, I mean, 17 pages, so 1/4 of the collected Everlasting Survivors size. How did you feel about the story as you have it currently? Like, was it too short? Was it all right? Did you get a feel for the people?
Yeah, I got the feel for the people, and maybe I'm looking into this wrong, but the struggles and how people overcome that, with, maybe having someone with, I don't want to spoil, but, mothers going through an issue.
Oh, so I will say this. What you're about to talk about is not a spoiler. I will give it right away.
Okay.
Because, well, the thing you're about to bring up is the foundational underpinnings of this story. So, the concept of Grim Island Lady Reaper is based around Lady Reaper's loss of, well, first her struggles to get pregnant after they get married, and then subsequently her loss of pregnancies after they're together, and then her reaching a breaking point when realizing just how hard the world is on children. And it's this break, it's this change in the way she sees the world. This is why I said she's the Punisher of the two, because she literally carries the Grim Reaper's scythe. I think that's how you pronounce it, scythe. And it's fine. I'll pop a better picture, not just my drawing up, so that people can see what I'm talking about. And while her husband Grimald does, he also experienced the loss. They have different takeaways.
Yeah, like philosophies.
Philosophies, yeah.
Yeah, and or how they're handling.
Handling. Yeah, that's
these
a good
situations, and that's what really resonated with me, because there's always, I always say that when somebody's bullied, there's two ways that they can handle it. They can
become the bully.
Yeah, they can either become the bully, or they can try to help people not get bullied.
Yep.
And it's interesting the way that people will handle different scenarios or events in their lives. And I'm not necessarily going to say if there's a right or wrong answer, because you don't know someone's life.
Absolutely. Well, I know for a fact my goal within the telling of these characters, the stories within the series, is to make it so that you realize both of them are right at different points in time. Because, as I said, the Lady Reaper's weapon is the Grim Owl's scythe. Well, Grim Owl's primary weapon is a staff. And it's funny because, yes, it can be used as an offensive weapon, but it's primarily used to defend people from
keep them.
From the scythe. And it's not often that, well, I feel like it's less often that characters are, the man is the, what would you call it,
not the aggressor.
Yeah, not the aggressor, yeah. And, but again, the reason that she is aggressive and he is more defensive is understandable given the events that led them to this place. And so, one of the things that really influenced and made me want to almost stick into this story more than others was a documentary I was watching called Quiet on the Set. Because as you feel the pain of these young people, well, now at this point they're grown up, but the pain that they still experience even so many years later, I was like, man, if only there was a defender there, somebody who, because a lot of times the kids were like, oh, our parents were almost pushed away. And so while I was watching this, I was like, man, it's almost never ending the amount of negative things that can impact young people.
Mm-hmm.
And I intentionally chose a very easy to accept original premise in the first issue because I'm not trying to run people off from the start. So in the first issue of Grim Owl and Lady Reaper, the the crime or the problem that needs to be solved is a familial kidnapping.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just much more understandable and easy to digest than so many of the much worse things that are to come.
Yeah, because I mean, no one will ever argue, or they shouldn't, that kidnapping is.
Yeah. Like I said, it's not good. They're not going to say, "Oh, I endorse this wholeheartedly," but there's a difference between endorsing and understanding, because, like I said, it's familial, and it's not done necessarily with ill intent. It's just it's done for a longing more than anything else.
Yeah, like okay. Totally not really what the story was going for, but it made me think of the movie Collateral when I was reading this.
Oh, okay,
with
okay.
Tom Cruise
Yeah.
and Jamie Foxx, because Tom Cruise is very nihilistic,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not gonna say nihilistic because he does have like good, like
Yes.
he does, but he just doesn't necessarily care. And Jamie Foxx's character is more optimistic, but doesn't have the drive.
Yeah,
to,
so
and that's always
contrast is
yes,
what you're saying.
correct.
And I agree. Contrast is definitely what I was going for, and that's just something that helps motivate storytelling. Because spoiler for next week's video, that reveal is going to also have contrast as a motivator for the characters. Now, it's a contrast in the two heroes, both philosophy and backstory, but still, I thrive on contrast because there was a time when I was attempting to write a story, and I was like, I like the powers, I like the character, but nothing makes sense. It's just too boring. It's just bland. It's vanilla.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as I introduced the contrast in character, it's when everything just popped and flourished. And so, yeah, I agree. Now, granted, I also agree that it's not like Collateral.
Yes,
but if we want to talk about different philosophies, then in that one specific way, it does fit well.
Mm-hmm.
Because, well, and so here's another thing. So both of the characters, one is a principal and the other is a substitute teacher. But the reason that their occupations were chosen in the way that they were is, again, to put them right in the firing line of where, kids are. And
okay.
and so, because I was thinking to myself when I'm trying to come up with the how, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it actually makes sense if you think about it in a Batman Forever kind of way. How would Bruce Wayne get to be where Edward Nygma is? Well, let's put Edward Nygma in Wayne Tech,
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why that I made the two heroes in this environment. And even the substitute teacher, she also volunteers to help in the theater department.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And so the reason that is because I know that I'm going to be using elements from the Quiet on the Set concepts. And so if you're already tied to theater, then theater can easily lead to students being brought into the behind-the-scenes camera world, if you will.
Okay.
And so, yeah. I just I look forward to further going down the line with these two, because personally I think that they're among my, I won't say favorite, but most
interesting. Like
definitely interesting.
Yeah.
But like there are times when I'm upset or hurt, and so I I'm on the side of Lady Reaper, and there are times when I'm calm and composed, and I'm like, okay, Grimoire is in the right. So, depending on my mood, I can easily see either hero's perspective, and with that, it's just positive. It's an enjoyable place to be, working within these different mindsets.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and that's actually just thinking about that. It's really cool that you're taking things that you saw, or like in movies or documentaries, and blending them into your stories and your characters that you're writing, which for like creative writing is really good to do.
Absolutely. Well, so I'll be honest, the real origin of the story is from my own experiences when it comes to unsuccessful pregnancies. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, like I said, the conflict from within and without, you know, however you want to look at it. But you can't, or I personally feel that I can't make everything just me. And so that's why, as I'm going through the process, I'm like, man, there's just so many things. Because, like, I used to work in news, and there were some stories we reported. I'm like, I do not know how to get this out of my head to go to sleep at night. And so, one major upside is that if you can make it so that these things either don't happen or have dire consequences, I think that it's easier to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, I was listening to this podcast yesterday, and the two people, the host and the guest, were talking about how the guest is she's a Christian, and she isn't quite necessarily defending the concept, but the host was asking her, how can you wrap your head around the idea that all sin is equal in evil, when he was like, I know I'm not perfect, I know you're not perfect, but there are people out there that do things to kids specifically that it's like, oh, me and you are not the same.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, even when I try and meet you halfway and think, oh, maybe it was a cheerleader type of imagery, and he's like, and then you read into it and it's like, oh, that's not what it was at all. It's terrible, or it's, you know, not even the thing the bad thing that I can even quote unquote just or understand. It's something far deeper and worse. So
mm-hmm.
my point is, when I'm in this imaginary world where that no matter the bad that is capable, you're able to bring them to a place of, I don't even know if justice is the right word, but like, you know, facing punishment. It's very, I don't know, it feels at least understandable. Whereas the other version, the real world version, is not understandable to me. Because, like, you know, I know people, I'm sure you do too, that work in the correctional system,
mm-hmm.
and like they tell you about, oh, this person did that to get in there. It's like, and they're still living and breathing and walking and moving. It's like, what?
What? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like,
yeah.
I can't even imagine. And so again, that's why to me it's beneficial to work in this world where you can change the outcome.
Yeah, because, you know, justice is always I'm not going to say controversial, but it's always a interesting discussion about how do we exact justice on someone who has done wrong to somebody, because, you know, it's easy, it's like, well, lock them up. It's like, well, maybe, you know, it's always...
Is that the right answer? Yeah.
Right, and there's always not a right or wrong answer to justice.
Yeah,
it's just a very interesting.
Just think about Batman. Well, and Punisher, for instance,
right?
Because I use both of those archetypes in my explanation of these characters. But like, so many times you'll hear people say, Batman is guilty of allowing the Joker to persist.
I forgot who. Red Hood makes that
of course
argument.
yeah. Well, but I love Batman's retort, which is, you think I don't want to kill him? Like, of course, it's all I think about. But but then you have on the contrary side with the Punisher, because he is so apt to instantly say goodbye, then to anyone almost, then what if in that case you make the wrong judgment call? And that's always the balancing act.
Right. Or can someone not have redemption? Can they not change their ways if given the opportunity to?
Absolutely.
Like, there's so many times that Batman could have killed Harley Quinn and would have been justified.
Absolutely.
But Harley Quinn changed her ways, and it's just
I'm with it.
Yeah.
And that's one thing, is like finding the balance in my bad guy choices as to who is able to avoid the scythe and who is unable to avoid that particular brand of
justice.
Or
like Rorschach. Yeah. Like Rorschach's.
And so yeah, that'll be one of the major ongoing concepts within Grim Owl and Lady Reaper, is who is redeemable and who just is absolutely incapable of making a redemption arc, if you will. So yeah, I appreciate you joining me, and thanks for reading the issue 1. I hope that you had a good time.
I did.
Oh, thank you. I hope that when it is available to purchase, everybody will go out of their way to go to gamblecomics.com and get themselves a copy of Grim Owl and Lady Reaper. Like I said, next week is, well, every Friday in September is Reset-ember, the reveal. Next week, Josiah will be here, and we are going to talk about the Uniter and the Unhinged.